Hello, hello, hello. Well, hello, 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 Mary.
Good afternoon.
I,
How are you?
I am doing fantastic. You doing well?
I am. Oh my gosh. So last night, I was so tired and I was yelling for Andy to do something. And he didn't answer. He didn't answer. And he was complaining about how I never use his name. And I go, well, you never answer to it. Right. And this is the military coming out. Right. So I yell jackass and he shows up. And I go, what were you doing? He was out in the shop behind the house. And I go, why didn't you answer? He goes, because I was sitting down. I just lost it, and I'm like, "Oh my god, so you're telling me you talk out of your ass, you have to stand up in order for you to talk to me."
Oh, Lord, huh?
And he looks at me, he goes, "God, you need sleep." I go, "I know," and it was like a joke for like a half an hour
Oh,
about me
that's
talking
good.
out of his ass.
And when you sit down, you don't say anything.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, little humor is always fun and good for the family, to laugh at certain things in life, huh? If you
Oh,
don't laugh,
yes.
you'll cry.
That's it. And there's days you laugh so hard you cry.
And there's days you laugh so hard you cry. And those are fun days. And of course, Travel Tuesdays runs on the high seas. I'd like to welcome everyone to Travel Tuesdays. And I love the little about that you have that you created. Travel Tuesday takes you on a journey with Rick Reese, Ron Clayton, and Mary Stanley, two
Mhm.
men exploring faith, freedom, and the travel business. Learn how to travel better, share powerful stories, and earn. I like that part, earn with Surge 365 as a travel agent. Your next adventure starts here. And as we know, life is an adventure. We're missing Ron and Linda Clayton. They're on a cruise, and I think this has been what their seventh or eighth or ninth cruise that they've taken.
Hmm.
Mary, do you can you believe before I came in the travel business, I had never been on a cruise?
I can
Who
believe it.
cruises? Who cruises?
Old
Especially,
people.
especially back in those days. Yeah, old people. The only cruise I went on was watching the Love Boat, and
That's it.
I
It
was.
was the old rich that did cruises.
It was the old rich that did cruises.
And now, like a buddy of mine who's a speaker on addiction, now the coaching industry is doing um, week long events on cruise ships.
Well, I was going to talk to you about that. With your specialty in neurodivergent and neurodivergent travel, to think about a seminar. We call them seminars at sea,
Yep.
where you put together an entire program, tailored to whichever subject area, whichever group, and you do seminars and you have fun. You mix fun with seminars and training. I've done several seminars at sea, and that's the going thing now. You should think about it for the neurodivergent population that you're working with.
I th- I want to, but part of me is like, because both my kids are special. Dealing with them on a boat for that long,
I don't know. I think they would be good.
they'll be good, but there's nowhere to escape them. It's not them misbehaving, it's not being able to escape them. Like we were on the ship, the Little Rock and the Sullivan, and my son decides that his animals need to walk the plank. And so they all went overboard.
Overboard, overboard.
Overboard, overboard. The crew
Never,
was more
never,
upset.
never to return.
They went over the Niagara Falls.
So he threw them, or they slipped on the plank.
Both. And all I could say is bye.
Oh my gosh! Ah, what a terrible ending, right?
Oh, he was entertained by it. The crew of the park were more upset not being able to retrieve them, thinking he was going to be upset than he was.
But let me
Because right
ask
after
you.
that, we went to Niagara so we could see if we could watch him go over the falls.
Well, let me ask you because one of the things in Surge 365, the overall thing is that it gives a person access to the travel industry
Yes.
to tailor, to mold, to make it after their passion. Like I can't tell you when you come into business, I can't tell you, do this, do this, do this in a rigid, military style manner. No, this is open. It's
And I was
open. Huh?
talking to one of my daughter's teachers the other day. So her dream is to open up a Christian school for special needs kids. And so she's a single mom with two kids. She's also a teacher for special needs kids. Phenomenal teacher. She's also working part time as a waitress to go to school part time at night. And we were talking about the travel industry. And so instead of her having to work at the diner, she could be working from home to one, be able to travel because that's something she wants to do, but also earn that income so she can pay for her master's degrees and education and be able to put money away to get her school set up.
Right. It's a door. It's a
And it's a
door.
door to who you never know you're gonna meet.
It's a door to
Like the
who you never
connections
know
you
you're gonna
can
meet.
end up making.
It's true. And so what I thought about, like for yourself, being a specialist in neurodiversity and training, and in particular, neurodiversity travel.
Mhm.
And not only teaching families how to travel better, smarter, with more comfort and at ease, but teaching the industry, here are the needs of this population to make sure that they get it, and they get it straight. And so you're coming at it from both those angles, teaching the industry as well as teaching legislators, the regulations that are necessary, teaching the industry how to accommodate the population, teaching the clients how to travel more, knowing that your needs are met. But being able to actually do that, and maybe at a seminar at sea, and inviting the industry, inviting the families, inviting the legislators, to bring them together on the same ship. I'm going to say under the same roof, on the same ship, and being able to discuss it. You
Uh,
know,
we could do actual theme seminars. So, like, we could do a seminar at sea for like different cruise ships and how they can make their ships more neurodiverse friendly.
yeah.
Uh, Doing special seminars at hotels
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
how
Mm-hmm.
they can adjust their rooms to be more neurodiverse friendly. Making sure you put them on the bottom floor, not the top floor.
Right. Right. And that's a need. One of the secrets to success in business is identifying emerging needs before the public even knows that they, are, before the industries even know that it's a need,
Well, and
to
it's
satisfy the public.
like right now, it's more acceptable. A
Hmm.
couple of years ago, you'd look at it like, well, then they just don't need to travel.
Yeah,
It
they were
took how many
a
years
hidden
for the Disabilities
population.
Act to go through?
Yeah, they were a hidden population, and one of the things, and I think you enlightened me on this, is that everybody can't travel, with someone who has neurodiversity or suffering with that because they have special needs along the path. So if you're traveling in a group and you have some folks that have, special abilities, as Country Boy would say, the group may have to stop for a moment, if they're hiking or whatever they're doing, to take care of the special needs,
Yep.
time out or whatever, there may be. But a group of folks who understand that traveling together is a whole different story, because now everybody understands. And you can even build into the program breaks or
Reset times. We call them
reset.
reset times because timeout always sounds like a punishment. No, when you're a kid, you got in trouble, you either got spanked or you got put in timeout.
Hmm.
So I always call them reset breaks.
And I know without you even thinking about it, you could put together a complete schedule.
Yeah.
You could write out a complete seminar, that progressively walks people through what they need to know, providing the background, the starting points, and addressing it even in breakout sessions, the legislation that's needed, the industry standards that are needed, and awareness. And then for the client, here with an understanding of all of it, here's how you travel better, smarter, you know. And I like your picture thing that you put together, so that someone that's looking at it, that's a traveler, can say, okay, this is these. Can you hear me? Not sure if Mary can hear me. There's some network instability, but I'll just keep talking.
No, yeah, well, it was me. I had to reset my screen.
Oh, okay. So, but yeah, I know that you could walk through that entire thing without even thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, and that's I live in that world. I eat, sleep, and live that world. And I,
Mm-hmm.
especially now when, after I got diagnosed at the same time, it made it easier for me to understand a lot of the quirks, a lot of things that my
Mm-hmm.
own issues were. But, a lot of veterans, it's got the same issues,
Right.
having too many people in a room or, different sounds. So you want to make sure, some veterans have the rooms either up on higher floors or, inside, not near all the windows and things like that. So that, they don't hear certain sounds like cars backfiring, things like that.
I know.
Make sure
It's
they're not
been
in a hotel next to an airport.
right. That's good. That's good. And see, people don't really take that into consideration, but you do because that's your world.
Well, that's like the one day you called me, we were talking about, the stay at the hotel you were at, and you listened to thud, 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 thud all night long.
I was surprised that you recognized when I said that that.
So
In
with
a
autism,
in a sequence of sound.
yeah. And
Of
well,
course,
and one of the things that people don't realize for autism, that's what kids do to regulate themselves.
run back and forth.
They just run or walk back and forth. And that's just part of why, like, my home office and my studio is down in the basement, directly above them. So I hear that all day long. So I know where they are. So as a parent, we can sleep through it because we can hear it in our sleep. It's like being in the military and hearing Reveille instantly waking up
Right.
and having the oh crap moment that you overslept. We can hear it in our sleep and we know where our kids are.
Wow.
When we don't hear that is where we worry because that means they're not there.
Wow. Well, I only knew that because of the education that you provided, of regulating, and
And
I
that's
didn't know. Hmm.
and that's the big thing. You're putting a kid who's, lived in a controlled environment into a whole new room, whole new smells, different blankets.
Well, it was one
So
o'clock in the morning, and I was still hearing that on upstairs above me that, and the first reaction was, they need to somebody's running and they need to slow the kid down or slow that person down and put them to bed. And then it just continued for another 30 minutes, an hour, and I'm like, okay. And then you kind of flashed in my mind. And I said, oh, this has to be something like Mary was talking about, regulating, kids that are maybe perhaps regulating. And because I was about ready to call the front desk, and then I kind of remembered, you and what you have been telling us all along, and I said, okay, no sense in calling. This is probably just something, and after a while, it was, I guess the kid fell out through exhaustion or something. But
basically,
yeah,
and that was more the hotel's fault along with the parents for not and that's the thing is that, as a parent, you need to say that and speak up and advocate for yourself. You need a room on the ground floor. I have a kid with special needs. It's not a bad thing, you know, because then what happens is that if they like to elope, especially when you're in hotels, it's
hmm,
a whole unfamiliar area. And so if you let the hotel know, they will keep someone on around that video, keeping an eye for you, helping you out.
wow.
The law enforcement will be notified, so that way if he does get out and leave the hotel, they're doing extra trips around that hotel, so that in case he does get out, they know who this kid is and where they belong to.
Is there an association between Alzheimer's and autism?
Um, I'm not 100%, but I'll look it up in one
The
minute.
reason why I'm asking, I was just thinking how a lot of elderly people kind of lose their way also and lose their bearing. And I know that's probably more of a memory, brain thing, but looking at it from a symptoms perspective and some of the results, you could see similarities and draw, parallels. But that would be interesting and an
They have
interesting.
some overlapping
That's a good
similarities.
chat GPT question.
It is, and I did. There's some similars, but they don't overlap. Like, so Alzheimer's is more of a decline in your cognitive abilities, as of where autism is more genetic.
Okay.
And there's different genetic markers for autism than there is for Alzheimer's.
How about from a symptoms perspective?
There's some overlapping, not quite a lot.
Okay.
Um,
What is the and I know this is probably not the best way to ask, is the treatments for autism, would you say?
so in the US, the go-to treatment is traditional ABA therapy, applied behavioral analysis. And what that
Explain
is,
that.
it basically teaches children, and I say children because most of the time you're diagnosed at a young age. And it's about them being taught to fit into society. It's about you being like everybody else. So you're supposed to ignore everything your body tells you. Um, b- you get fixated on a certain subject. That's bad because no one wants to hear it. So you're told not to talk about it. So you have no idea how to have a conversation because you don't know what to talk about besides what you're interested in. It's about being able to sit at a table and eat. It's about being able to do everything that everyone else does in a way that makes the world feel comfortable around you.
Mm.
The world has changed besides the US to where it's more called the neurodiverse paradigm, and that's what I've been doing for 8 years now. And it's looking at the individual as an expert in themselves. And it's about them learning how to meet society in the middle instead of them having to mask everything or adapt to everything. It's
Hmm.
about empowering them to understand this is who you are. You're wired differently. Now, where do you want to go? What do you want to accomplish? What are your challenges? What are your gifts? And you're overcoming the challenges. So it's taking them in a way that they learn and how their brain's wired to learn to speak again. It's about them being able to understand what clothes work for them and wear accordingly. It's about them saying, "It's just too much, I need a break," and walk away.
Does a person that maybe have autism, do they grow out of it, into it, away
Um,
from it?
you can
Over
overcome
time, what happens? Is it the same, or is there a difference as you get
so
as
here's
the person gets older?
the cool part of autism. It's a spectrum. So you have different variations, different degrees. You can and Norway is very has been known worldwide for this for years now, where you can test high on the spectrum and using this targeted approach, by the time you're a teenager to a young adult, will actually not even test on the scale anymore. You've overcome your challenges. And you're doing it in a way that you're actually physically overcoming them, not masking them. So theoretically, technically, you won't be considered autistic.
Is that behavioral, physical, psychological?
Um, Neurological and behavioral. So autism is a neurological disorder, not a psychological disorder.
Hmm.
The World Health Organization has reclassified it because it is a wiring issue, not a psychological issue.
Mm, how about that? You know, there's just not a lot of education in the
And there's the
population
problem
in
is
general.
they don't have enough of the right education.
I mean, you
And
know, it's still a mystery to
it
most
is.
people.
And, it is, but it's also so vast. So you have one person who's severe that bangs their head on the floor and the wall, nonverbal, screaming all the time, which was my son, to the next kid that is talking like a regular person, just has issues with certain repetitive behaviors, getting overwhelmed, sensory issues. So it just depends on how your brain. And what's really, really cool is they've actually come up with a test doing MRI and CAT scans, asking you questions, figuring out where your gifts are and where your challenges are based on how your brain's wired and lit up.
How about that? That's good. Is
And
there
there's
what is that a psychological test? Is that a physical test?
that is literally just going in and
Just
having a brain
brain
scan done.
scan.
Just a brain
Hmm.
scan, asking you questions while you're awake and looking at how you react and how your brain's wired.
You know, when we were opening the show and talking about a seminar at sea, and being able to actually include that as well,
Hmm.
you know, as one of the bennies of the folks who are coming, and to be able to continue that on as treatment, as discussion, as whatever the case may be. But a seminar at sea that looks at the groups of folks who are concerned, the legislation and the legislators and the legislation that's needed, the
Department of
industry, the
Educations.
vendors, and that are servicing the population, and then of course the clients, and then at some point having the different breakout sessions, but also looking at opportunities to create income,
Yeah.
and in the different industries and the different opportunities that that suit best for the population, such as travel, like being able to work from home and to be mobile and independent and to be able to do what you want to do, right? Without a boss over you and criticizing you and looking at you, whatever, but being able to then introduce, and maybe not just travel, but opportunities to create income, working independently or working in an office environment, and how to adapt and how to adjust and how to organize, a group as a support system. All this coming together, you really don't see it out there.
No, and this is the one good thing is for the first time we have adults who have been in the system that have lived this world that are finally now having the power to speak up and say, this is bad. This doesn't work. And so having them join the crews to be able to get people to understand what they went through as a child, going through different therapies, going through different lifestyles is a huge eye opener.
It's going to take, because of course, I don't have all the details, and I'm really just you. I know as much as you've been introducing to us, but it seems like it's really just people are just becoming aware of it. So, like, it's going to take another 5, 10, 20 years, now that the eyes are kind of open, to move it further along. Or would that be a shorter timeline?
And it's also that they're becoming more open about it, you know? It's something that's not a secret anymore. It's not like it was with, back in the day with your Down syndrome or any type of